Hello, welcome to my video tutorial. I'm actually just setting up a project. So I got my needle and thread, needle threaded, my 2 pieces of designs papers, 2 pieces of pellin. What I'm gonna do is tack these down, so bear with me as I speed this process up. And go ahead and just thread that bad boy up again. I'm using nylon thread, so the wax literally just comes off like crazy. And I just started using nylon thread like in the last year because everybody's like, oh my god, nylon thread, it's the best. And I was using cotton thread, like quilting thread, and I loved it for the longest. But I noticed that when I was using the quilting thread that my beads were like extra spaced out because it was so thick, so I couldn't get that nice even lay I wanted. So I started using nylon, but it's like bittersweet just because I'm not used to it, and the wax just comes off. And then I tried that conditioning wax, I guess it's conditioner for the thread, and it goops up my hands. I don't know, does that happen to you guys? Because that happens to me all the time. It's just not for me. And if it's for you, that's pretty cool, but I'll stick with wax. I like the grip. You gotta grip that beadwork. Now that I have them both on the pellin, I'm gonna cut around so I don't have that excess, because when I go to handle my beadwork and I wanna like lay the beads down flat and make sure they don't move, I like to be able to make sure my hand can come all the way in on the paper. Because if I have a big piece of pellin and I'm like trying to tack something on this side, I'm like trying to crumple my beadwork like that to hold it, and I hate doing that. So I like to trim the excess edges off. I do, however, leave a little bit of edging on there just in case I want to do like a whip stitch edging, lazy stitch on the outside for the finalizing of the project. I never know what kind of edging I want to do until I get there, until the whole thing's done. And then I'm like, oh, I think I'll do a little whip stitch. Or sometimes I want to do the, like the brick stitch type. Anyway, that's the beginning process of getting these bad boys started. Okay, so now I got my thread, my first needle tacked in there, getting my second needle started. These are the colors I'm going to use for the border, so I'm going to start with the border first and go all the way around. Not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, but these are the colors that spoke to me. And then I have some blues over here that I'm going to use for the actual bead palette, the color palette. So do you remember how I said I didn't really care for the conditioner? I do, however, love the smell. Indian Creek, get your conditioners there because man, it smells so good. So what I'm gonna do is thread my needle. So I'm gonna start with this one here. And I like to pull my beads off the thread. Doing this, I hate dumping my beads out, but my thread broke on my black hank, so I just laid them all out. Anyway, what we're gonna do is I tack about every 1 or 2 depending on if I'm going to be doing corners, but since I'm going around in a circle, I'm gonna tack every 2. I'm gonna just take 4 though, and I'm gonna start like that, and I'm gonna hold it with my finger. This is my threading needle only. I got 2 needles. Second needle is gonna come up, where are we at here? Come up right on the outside by the second bead. Pull up and see where it's right in the middle of those 4 beads? I'm gonna come on, it's on one side, and I'm gonna take my needle, I'm gonna come over on the other side. On that side. So then I'm tacking right over that thread in between all in between those 4. So I'm gonna do that every 2 beads. So I'm gonna do it again. Okay, and then I'm gonna come back on the other side. And boom. So then you have your first 4 beads ready to go. So then I'm gonna just keep doing that all the way around. I'm gonna do one solid color of this brown. I'm gonna go all the way around in a circle. Okay, I made it all the way around. I just gotta go that last bit. So what I'm gonna do is, with my stringing needle, which is the one on top, I am going to go ahead and close that space and just go down, put my needle in right where I started. And what I'm doing is I just tack, because it was 4 beads for me to close it up, I'm just tacking in between those 2 beads. So boom, all the way around here. Okay, so I'm gonna start on the outside and go brown. I think I'm gonna do the olive green here, and then probably go with yellow. So I'm gonna do two lines outside the brown, and then I'm gonna work my way in. I went around with the green, and I got this little gap here that I need to fill, and I'm going to just guesstimate that I need 3 beads to fill that to be done. I'll try 2 beads first. Oh yeah, that's gonna need a 3rd one. And the trick when you're beading in general is not to pull too tight and not to be too loose. Your hands are ultimately your tension for your whole project. So beginner beadworkers, they're always like, how do you get your beadwork so straight? Or how do you get them to line up so good? Well, you need to let your beads lay as natural as possible. Once you let your beads lay as natural as possible, then you can go in and tack them just enough to where they're laying straight and not bunched up. It's definitely something you have to practice to how you feel comfortable with it. Also, when you're beading against lines, you don't want to push your second row of beads against your first row of beads, because then you're going to start to alter the first row you already tacked. A lot of beaders don't realize how much they're pushing against the first row to do like geometric designs. If you're pushing against your row of beadwork and you're tacking, you're altering your first beaded line to where you can't get a straight angle. And this is very common when people are doing corners or triangles. Don't push against that first row. You want to naturally lay your second row straight, and it's going to be its own pathway. So yeah, I think I'm going to call it good there. I got a good border started, 2 beads, 2 rows of beads. And I'll pick up tomorrow with the yellow.